So I was going to do this live, and then I said screw it, and basically the topic of this video is Sniffy Joe a lying sack of monkey nuts? Okay, and to prove yes or no, I'm using PolitiFact. Now, what is PolitiFact? PolitiFact.com is an American nonprofit project operated by the Poynter Institute in St. Petersburg, Florida, with offices there and in Washington, D.C. It began in 2007 as a project of the Tampa Bay Times, then the St. Petersburg Times, with reporters and editors from the newspaper and its affiliated news media partners reporting on the accuracy of statements made by elected officials, candidates, their staffs, lobbyists, interest groups, and others involved in U.S. politics. Its journalists select original statements to evaluate and then publish their findings on the PolitiFact.com website, where each statement receives a truthometer rating. The ratings range from true for statements the journalists deem as accurate to pants on fire from the taunt liar, liar, pants on fire for claims the journalists deem as not accurate and makes a ridiculous claim. Okay, so is PolitiFact right wing or left wing? According to All Sides Media Bias website, they are left leaning, and what a lean left rating means. Sources with an All Sides Media Bias rating of lean left display media bias in ways that moderately align with liberal, progressive, or left-wing thought and or policy agendas. A lean left bias is a moderately liberal rating on the political spectrum. So this is not a right-wing newspaper, not a right-wing website. This is left-leaning. These are your guys, not mine. So, is Sniffy Joe a lying sack of monkey nuts? Let's find out. The average tax rate for billionaires is about 3%, which is a lower tax than a school teacher or firefighter. False. During a visit to a labor union in suburban Maryland, President Joe Biden made a pitch for more stringent taxes on billionaires. In Lanham, Maryland, Biden told members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union he was calling on Congress to pass his proposal for minimum tax on billionaires. At the February 15th event, Biden said there are about 720 billionaires at the start of his administration. Now we have about 1,000. You know what the average tax they pay is? About 3%. Look, no billionaire should pay a lower tax than a school teacher or a firefighter. The number of billionaires in the U.S. is hard to pin down and can be heavily influenced day to day by changes in the value of stocks. But the 720 to 1,000 figure is broadly in line with recent estimates made by news outlets. However, the tax rate Biden cited is wrong, as is the claim about what school teachers or firefighters pay. The tax rate for billionaires is more than 3%. 9 days before the Maryland event, the White House published a fact sheet on the economy under Biden saying the average tax rate for billionaires is 8%. The White House also provided PolitiFact with other examples of Biden referring to 8%. However, even this 8% figure needs important context. As we have previously noted, the White House's 8% figure came from a report by its own Council of Economic Advisors that looked at what would happen if the United States were to tax unrealized gains on stocks. Currently, if people see their stock shares rise in value over time, those gains are not taxed until the shares are sold. If the shares are never sold, they aren't taxed. Under current law, which Biden proposes to change, stocks may be passed on to the next generation with little or no taxation. The White House report found that if you include unrealized gains in the income calculations of the 400 richest U.S. families, those families are ultimately paying a tax rate of 8.2%. Economists and policymakers have long debated whether the government should tax unrealized gains, but Biden made it sound as if 3%, or in previous instances 8%, was the standard tax rate paid by billionaires today. It's not. That calculation is made by taxed unrealized wealth rather than income, as is done under current law. So what is the actual tax burden under the current tax code for the wealthiest Americans? IRS data from 2019 show that the top 1% of taxpayers paid an average federal income tax of 25.6%. A more elite group, the top 0.001%, which is in 2019 meant people earning about $60 million or more a year, paid 22.9%. There's one study that pinpointed a roughly 3% tax rate for the ultra-rich, but that too was based on a rhetorical model in which unrealized wealth was taxed. ProPublica, an investigative journalist outlet, compared how much in taxes the 25 richest Americans paid each year with how much their wealth grew in the same period, according to Forbes wealth estimates. ProPublica found that they paid taxes amounting to 3.4% of their gain in wealth. Those 25 billionaires account for about 25% of all U.S. Billionaires. What's next? Throw that first one in the bag. After Joe Biden became vice president at the behest of his father, he gave his uncle Frank H. Biden a Purple Heart for serving in the U.S. military during World War II. When President Joe Biden participated in a Delaware town hall for U.S. veterans, he told the crowd a story about awarding a Purple Heart to his late uncle, Frank H. Biden, while vice president. Biden's voice grew tender as he recounted the story about his uncle's refusal to accept the award because the others died. He likened that sense of character to the generation of soldiers who fought in Iraq. The Purple Heart is a military decoration awarded to members of the armed forces of the U.S. who were wounded or killed in action against an enemy, according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. In Biden's telling of the story, it happened sometime after the 2008 election. Here are Biden's full comments about his uncle and the Purple Heart. My dad, when I got elected vice president, he said, "Joey, Uncle Frank fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He was not feeling very well now. Not because of the Battle of the Bulge, but he said, and he won the Purple Heart, and he never received it. He never got it. Do you think you could help him get it? We'll surprise him." So we got him the Purple Heart. He had won it in the Battle of the Bulge, and I remember he came over to the house, and I came out, and he said, "Present it to him, okay?" He had the family there. I said, "Uncle Frank, you won this, and I want to." He said, "I don't want the damn thing." "No, I'm serious." He said, "I don't want it." I said, "What's the matter, Uncle Frank? You earned it." He said, "Yeah, but the others died. The others died. I lived. I don't want it." In the days after the event, conservative media outlets, the Republican National Committee, and fellow fact-checkers called Biden's story as he described it into question. Our review lands at a similar conclusion. Obituaries for the president's uncle show he died in 1999, almost a decade before Biden became vice president. Biden's father died in 2002, while Biden represented Delaware in the U.S. Senate. The White House did not respond to our request for comment. Throw another monkey testicle into the bag. What's next? Says he's been to Afghanistan, Iraq, and those areas twice as president. Well, I'd like to fucking hope not, because we're not in Afghanistan. Dumbass. So, let's see. Do we add another testicle to the fucking bag? President Joe Biden mentioned his travels through war zones in the Middle East during a summit about veterans health care at the Delaware National Guard headquarters. The facility is named for Biden's late son, Bo, who served in Iraq with the Guard. I've been in and out, not as a obviously combatant, but in and out of Afghanistan, Iraq, and those areas 38, 39 times, he said, December 16th. Not as president, only twice as president. Biden's description of his travels to the two countries has not held up under scrutiny. In his 2022 State of Union address, Biden said, "I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times." We rated his statement false. The actual number was about half that, including visits while he was vice president and senator. He had not been to either country as president before that March 1st speech, and that remains unchanged. The White House referred us to the National Security Council, which did not reply to our request for information. Afghanistan has become more unstable during President Biden's time as president, given that U.S. troops were at war there until he oversaw the completion of their withdrawal. The country fell into chaos and Taliban control in August 2021 as the U.S. completed its withdrawal, begun under former President Donald Trump. You know what's funny is we didn't hear it. Donald Trump withdrew 10,000 troops, didn't see one person hanging from a plane, and did not leave any equipment behind. Weird how that works. Didn't even hear about it in the news. In our earlier review of Biden's travels, we found the last time Biden visited Iraq was in 2016 when he was vice president. Add another testicle to the bag. Okay. Oh, the price of gas is down from $5 when I took office. High gas prices have been a political challenge for President Biden, Joe Biden, and Democrats in this midterm election year. During an October 27th visit to Syracuse, New York, I lived south of there, about 45 minutes, Biden flubbed a statistic on gas prices. You mean he lied? He didn't flub, he lied, prompting a swarm of criticism among political commentators and on social media. Today, the most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office, Biden said in remarks about microchip manufacturing in Syracuse. Biden was in the ballpark about the most common gas price when he was making his remarks, but the national average gas price hit $5 under Biden this past summer, and prices were not at that level when Biden was inaugurated in 2021. Gas prices rose during Biden's presidency mainly because of increased demand as the economy recovered from disruptions wrought by the coronavirus pandemic. Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine also caused havoc in the oil markets. Russia is a major world oil producer, and many Western nations tried to wean themselves from Russian oil in the protest of the war. How U.S. gas prices have risen and fallen in January 2019 to present. And there's a nice little chart, right? Remember, this is a left-leaning webpage. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the monthly peak for gasoline prices in the U.S. came in June. That's when the average nationwide price hit $5.03 per gallon, crossing the $5 level for the first time in history. In the second week of that month, the weekly price peaked at $5.11. These prices are not adjusted for inflation. Since then, prices have fallen, something Biden has been eager to tout. The most recent weekly price for October is $3.89, representing a decline of about $1.22 or 23% in about 4 months. Now, I remember pointing out the gas prices were over $5 a gallon when, after Sniffy Joe was inaugurated, and you know what the loony left kept telling me? The president has nothing to do with gas prices. So, you need to make up your mind. So, slap another, fucking testicle in the bag. I've already covered that one. Okay, well, no, actually, this one's easy. Gun manufacturers are the only industry in the country that have immunity from lawsuits. No, they don't. Thanks to you fucking people, the pharmaceutical companies do. In the wake of the deadly elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, President Joe Biden repeated an inaccurate talking point in his push for gun control legislation, saying that gun manufacturers represent the only industry with liability immunity. We should repeal the liability shield that often protects gun manufacturers from being sued for the death and destruction caused by their weapons. Biden wrote in a June 2nd tweet, "They're the only industry in the country that has this kind of immunity. It's outrageous. It must end." He said the same thing in a speech about gun violence around the 18:28-minute mark. This isn't the first time Biden has made this claim. He's made it repeatedly, including April 2021 remarks about gun violence after a man went on a shooting rampage at 3 spas in Atlanta area, killing 8, and another gunman killed 10 people at a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. He said it again in his 2022 State of the Union address. But the claim is inaccurate. The gun industry is susceptible to some lawsuits, and there are federal laws restricting liability for a number of other types of businesses. Pharmacy. Yeah. We reached out to the White House for comment, but did not hear back. The legislation at issue is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, which was signed into law in 2005 by President George W. Bush. The law says gun dealers and manufacturers cannot be sued when their products are misused. No shit. It'd be like a car. I drive like shit. I crash. You should be allowed to sue the guy who made the car. Dumbasses. But the law lists several situations that are not protected from liability. It doesn't protect gun dealers or who transfer a gun knowing it would be used for criminal purposes, nor those who knowingly break state or federal law if the violation results in harm. Gun manufacturers can also be sued for certain injuries due to gun design defects. Supporters say the law protects gun dealers and manufacturers from frivolous and expensive proceedings, while opponents argue that the broadness of the law and its narrow exceptions stop some victims from having their day in court. Yeah, that's because generally the people who misuse the gun fucking kill themselves. And yet generally don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. When President Biden took office, there was no vaccine available. By the way, you should know that more people died of COVID under Sniffy Joe than under the previous administration. I shouldn't say COVID-19. Can't say the C word on YouTube. Beer 19. More people died of Beer 19 under Sniffy Joe than the previous administration. The White House recently tweeted that when President Joe Biden took office, there was no vaccine available. Yet I can find you a video of Sniffy Joe getting the vaccine before he was president, or just before inauguration. There was no vaccine available. After widespread pushback on social media, it retracted the claim. On May 12th, the White House's official Twitter account sent a tweet that said in part that when President Biden took office, there was no vaccine available for COVID-19. Yeah. He might not want to take credit for, putting out a vaccine. It's the one thing that most of us would wish the other guy would shut the fuck up about. The tweet attracted wide notice, with critics noting, among other things, that Biden himself had received his first vaccination on December 21st, 2020, which was about a month before he was sworn in. I think I just said that. Yeah, there's numbnuts, there's dingle nuts there getting the vaccine. On May 13th, the White House walked back its original statement, tweeting, "We previously misstated that vaccines were unavailable in January 2021. We should have said that they were not widely available. Vaccines became available shortly before the president came into office. Since then, he's responsible for fully vaccinating over 200 million people. And now the vaccinated are the majority of COVID Beer 19 deaths in the United States." Way to go, dumb fucks. But I'm not supposed to say that. Fuck you. The White House erred in its first attempt at framing its record on vaccines. While coronavirus vaccines are often hard for ordinary Americans to get, they did exist and were administered. The first vaccination was administered to an employee at Long Island Jewish Medical Center on December 14, 2020, or 6 days before Biden received his first shot. Initially, healthcare workers were among the few categories of Americans who were allowed to receive a vaccine. Some didn't want it, so they got fired. Now you're short medical workers, dumbass. All right, let's see. What else? What do we do? Here's another one. As a youth, I got arrested for protesting for civil rights. This is the same guy who was arguing against integrated busing because he didn't want his kids growing up in a zoo. Or was it a zoo he said? Yeah, I think he said zoo. So, yeah. Any of you loony leftists want to, like, fucking... When President Joe Biden went to Georgia to press for voting rights legislation, he made a passing reference to a moment from his past, the time he got arrested while protesting for civil rights. It's not the first time Biden has said he was arrested in his youth while protesting for civil rights. If he was a Democrat, he was not protesting for civil rights. Read a fucking history book. And it's not the first time that the evidence to back up his assertion is scarce. He's been called out repeatedly for decades by fact checkers, including PolitiFact, for exaggerating his experiences with civil rights movement and his interactions with law enforcement. Biden invoked the civil rights battles of the 1960s as he spoke on a campus shared by Morehouse College and Clark Atlanta University, two historically black colleges. I did not walk in the shoes of generations of students who walked these grounds, he said. But I walked other grounds. Because I'm so damn old, I was there as well. This drew laughs from the crowd. You think I'm kidding, man? It seems like yesterday, the first time I got arrested. Anyway. This is why they want CRT, so the next generation will fucking forget who the real racists were. If you were a Democrat, you were not marching for fucking civil rights. We reached out to the White House to clarify what arrest he was referring to, and they pointed to excerpts from 3 speeches Biden has made in recent years. They addressed an incident in Delaware in the 1950s in which people gathered to protest the sale of a home to a black couple. Police were called to the home. As hundreds of people protested outside, there were a few arrests, but no evidence that Biden was among them. If he was arrested, he was the one protesting against the black couple getting the home. He was a Democrat. Read a history book. How Biden described the incident. In the earliest of those speeches at the Economic Club of Southwest Michigan on October 16, 2018, Biden discussed the incident in the context of joining the ticket of Barack Obama, who would become the first black president. Biden recalled the 2008 exchange with his mother, Catherine Eugenia Finnegan, who was then in her 90s. She said, "Joey, didn't I call you about a month ago and ask you about Barack?" I said, "Yeah, Mom," she said. "Didn't you say to me you thought he was really bright and had a great deal of integrity and would make a good president if he was the nominee?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Joey, remember at 15 years old and the real estate agent sold a house to the black couple in Linfield? This was in suburban Sprawl, the neighboring neighborhood. I told you not to go down there because of the protests. And you went down and you got arrested because you were standing on the porch with the black couple?" I said, "Yeah, Mom, I remember that." Biden again used the word arrested when describing what his mother said about that day in another speech in African Methodist Episcopal Church in Nevada on February 16, 2020. But Biden was not always used the term arrest when telling his story. December 13, 2018, during remarks at the University of Utah, he recounted his mother saying, "Remember, I told you not to go down and the police brought you back because you were standing on the front porch with the black couple?" He used familiar language in quoting his mother. "The police brought you home," rather than arrested him. During a Zoom interview with Oprah Winfrey on October 28, 2020, the Washington Post fact checker reported, Biden did not mention getting arrested when he recalled the discussions around joining the ticket with Obama in his 2017 memoir, Promise Me Dad, A Year of Hope, Hardship, and Purpose. What does the documentary evidence show? Contemporary newspaper articles confirm that there were protests at 2 homes near where Biden was growing up in Delaware in 1959. The larger one in Collins Park was at the home of a black couple. The second, in suburban Carvecroft, was held at the home of a real estate broker who had sold that couple their home. The News Journal and Wilmington newspaper reported on February 25, 1959, that 7 arrests following the protest at Collins Park home. 3 men for disturbing the peace and 4 teenagers for possessing fireworks. Again, if he was a Democrat, he was not protesting for a black couple. Read a fucking history book. All right, throw another testicle into the bag. Another monkey testicle. I've been against that war in Afghanistan from the very beginning. He wasn't against the war. President Joe Biden has been criticized for how he handled the U.S. military exit from Afghanistan in August. But Biden has said he remains convinced that it was the right thing to do. I agree with him. Not often I agree with Sniffy Joe. We should have gotten out of there. Of course, usually when we withdraw, because I spent 23 years in the infantry, we don't leave weapons for the enemy. We destroy them. We make enough C4 and thermite and all that good shit and artillery to destroy all that shit. We do that. So getting out of Afghanistan was not a bad thing. How we got out of Afghanistan just demonstrates what happens when you put a man with dementia in charge of the military. During a CBS News interview that was primarily about First Lady Jill Biden, the president referenced his past stance on the Afghanistan war. I've been against that war in Afghanistan from the very beginning, the president told Rita Braver in a segment aired on CBS Sunday morning on December 12th. We're spending $300 million a week in Afghanistan for over 20 years. A reader asked us to fact-check Biden's stated position on the war, so we did. The record shows that Biden's claim was wrong. No, it's not wrong. He lied. Don't say PolitiFact, left-leaning. See, they won't say he lied. He lied. Biden was called out for a similar assertion during the Democratic presidential primary in 2019. Biden told an editorial board meeting of New Hampshire's Seacoast Media Group that I'm the guy, as has been pointed out repeatedly, that thought we should not be going into Afghanistan. At the time, CNN fact-checked Biden and found the assertion to be incomplete at best. Isn't CNN left-leaning too? Let's see. You got to be a world-class liar to have left, like the left, calling you a liar, because they lie their ass off. The Biden campaign told CNN that Biden had been skeptical of the U.S. role in Afghanistan, including opposing then President Barack Obama's surge of additional troops in 2009, when Biden was Obama's vice president. The New York Times reported that Biden argued against a surge in internal debates. However, as a senator in 2001, Biden did vote for the initial U.S. invasion of Afghanistan following the 9/11 attacks. When the authorization for use of military force came up in the Senate 3 days after the attacks, it passed 98-0, with Biden voting in favor. While it's possible to parse Biden's 2019 statement as being somewhat consistent with his 2001 vote, it's impossible to do so for what he told Braver, that I've been against the war in Afghanistan from the very beginning. The war began with the congressional vote, and Biden voted in favor of it. So another testicle, monkey testicle for the sack. Let's see. I used to drive a tractor trailer. I only did it for part of a summer. By the way, my father was a tractor trailer driver for like 20 years, 2 million saved miles. Fuck you, Joe. President Joe Biden went to Dakota County Technical College in Minnesota to tout the benefits of the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. Biden toured and met students in the college's heavy-duty truck technology area and told them they were part of the next generation of workers to tackle the jobs that lie ahead. He may have come to talk about the future, but as he spoke to a cluster of 3 people, Biden's thoughts went back to the past. I used to drive a tractor trailer, so I know a little bit about driving big trucks, Biden said November 30th. The young man next to him said, awesome, and Biden continued, I only did it for part of a summer, but I got my license anyway. When tape of that exchange appeared, the Republican National Committee's research arm fired off a tweet. Joe Biden, who has been a politician for 48 years, repeats the lie that he used to drive a tractor trailer. The RNC Research November 30th tweet said, "A reader asked us to take a look." Yep, another one for the monkey sack, another testicle for the sack of monkey nuts. The number of small businesses is up 30% compared to before the pandemic. Let's see. During remarks designed to report his administration's progress on unclogging the nation's supply chains, President Joe Biden touted another positive economic indicator on his watch: growth in small businesses. We're the only leading economy in the world where household income and the economy as a whole are stronger than they were before the pandemic. Bullshit. Inflation has been outpacing wages for 20 months now. Well, actually 2 years now. 24 months. So, lie. You're even lying about that in this lie. Biden said on December 1st from the White House complex, there are other signs of strength too. The number of small businesses is up 30% compared to before the pandemic. We were surprised to hear that statistic about small businesses, given that a pandemic-induced recession clobbered restaurants and other small companies. So we dug into it and found that Biden had misstated a real statistic. The White House referred us to Census Bureau data that tracks how many Americans are applying for employer identification numbers, a step in the process of starting a new payroll. Economists often use this as a proxy for small business creation. In the most recent month for which data is available, October 2021, the data shows that 52,277 applications were made. 2 years earlier, in October 2019, there were 39,105 applications. That's just over a one-third increase, which roughly tracks with the number Biden cited. Small businesses creation is running higher now than before the pandemic, and here's a little chart. Chart shows the number of tax applications each month by new businesses that plan to hire workers, a commonly used proxy for the creation of new small businesses. The period before the pandemic is shown in green, the pandemic period in blue. However, this data does not support his assertion that the number of small businesses is up 30% compared to before the pandemic. Yes, that chart does not show one-third. What's this? No governor in Virginia has ever won when he or she is the same party as the sitting president. Is there anything this guy tells the truth about? Like this, remember, this is a left-leaning fact check site. I picked this site on purpose because it is left-leaning. Biden bots his claim about Virginia elections. President Joe Biden recently flubbed Virginia history while trying to avoid blame for Democrat Terry McAuliffe's loss to Republican Glenn Youngkin in the November 2nd gubernatorial election. No governor in Virginia has ever won when he or she is the same party as the sitting president. Biden, a Democrat, said during a November 3rd news conference. No doubt it's been a very reliable trend for 44 years that Virginians in their odd year gubernatorial races elect a candidate from the opposite party of the president. Usually there's some dissatisfaction with the incumbent president that plays a role in the gubernatorial election, and the party that lost the presidential election a year earlier is often highly motivated for the gubernatorial race. But the trend is not etched in stone. McAuliffe bucked it in 2013 when he was elected governor while Democrat Barack Obama was in the White House. You have to go back to 1973 to find the previous time it happened. Republican Richard Nixon was president, and Mills Godwin, a longtime Democrat who defected to the GOP, was elected governor. Wow. What's now? Oh, yeah. This ought to be like pants on fire. Some of this stuff just should be like pants on fire. Like, holy shit. Some of it, is just false. He's either We know he's not running things. They're just putting shit on a teleprompter for him to read because he has fucking dementia. Yes, folks, you elected a guy with dementia to be president. Joe Biden said that Al-Qaeda is gone from Afghanistan. This ought to be like pants on fire because they're actually like armed now, better armed. They have MRAPs now. As President Joe Biden defended his administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, he suggested that Al-Qaeda was no longer a threat there. Look, let's put things in perspective here, Biden said in August 20th remarks. What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with Al-Qaeda gone? We went to Afghanistan for the express purpose of getting rid of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, as well as getting Osama bin Laden, and we did. Biden is wrong to say that Al-Qaeda is gone entirely. Officials in his administration have said the terrorist group remains active. On the same day of Biden's remarks, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said, "We know that Al-Qaeda is a presence, as well as ISIS in Afghanistan, and we've talked about that for quite some time. We do believe it's exorbitantly high, but we don't have an exact figure for you." Kirby added that Al-Qaeda's presence isn't enough to merit a threat to the U.S. as it did 20 years ago. On Fox News Sunday, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken echoed that, saying that there are Al-Qaeda members in Afghanistan, but their capacity for a 9/11 type of attack has been diminished. Biden's statement that Al-Qaeda is gone lacked that nuance and went further than his statement days earlier that Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan was degraded. A White House spokesperson pointed to comments Biden made on August 20th, stating the threat of terrorism is broadly and Al-Qaeda specifically remains a concern. Biden said that there was a greater danger from ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all these affiliates in other countries by far than there is from Afghanistan. The UN and Inspector General to Congress have said Al-Qaeda remains in Afghanistan. Reports by government agencies in recent months show that Al-Qaeda remains a presence in Afghanistan. The United Nations report in June stated that a significant part of the leadership of Al-Qaeda resides in the Afghanistan and Pakistan border region. Al-Qaeda is present in at least 15 Afghan provinces and is reported to number in the range of several dozen to 500 persons, the report stated. While Al-Qaeda maintains contact with the Taliban, it is laying low and its longer-term strategy is strategic patience for a period of time before it would seek to plan attacks against international targets again, the report stated. The Inspector General to Congress compiled information from various federal agencies about operations in Afghanistan and released the information in a report this summer. The Defense Intelligence Agency told the Inspector General that the Taliban maintains a relationship with Al-Qaeda, providing safe haven for the terrorist group while publicly denying its presence in Afghanistan. Under a February 2020 agreement between the Taliban and the United States, the Taliban was supposed to prevent Al-Qaeda from using Afghanistan to threaten the U.S. Therefore, the Taliban is likely downplaying its relationship with the group. Yeah. Oh my God. Why aren't any of these like pants on fire? Like, the cost of an automobile, it's kind of back to what it was before the pandemic. I don't understand how that happens with record high fucking inflation, you brain dead twit. During a recent CNN town hall, a questioner pressed President Joe Biden about price increases during the economic recovery, including higher prices for cars. First of all, the good news is the economy is picking up significantly, Sniffy Joe said during the July 21st town hall in Cincinnati. It's rational when you think about it. The cost of an automobile is kind of back to what it was before the pandemic. That's not correct by any metric we could find. A shortage in microchips has slowed new car production, and a decreased supply of new cars has pushed more potential purchasers into the used car market. That, in turn, has prompted prices of used cars to skyrocket. Meanwhile, there's no immediate end in sight for the microchip shortage, so the higher prices could be with us for a while. The White House did not respond to an inquiry for this article. Federal data shows the comparison clearly. Every month, the federal government computes the increases in price for a wide variety of consumer goods, including new and used cars. For new and used cars, prices were stable for years but began to increase in the summer of 2020. By June 2021, prices were up almost 21% over their level right before the pandemic hit. Consumer Price Index for new and used cars. Yellow bars denote pre-pandemic period. Most of this increase was driven by prices for used cars. New cars rose by 5.3% over that period, but used cars rose by 43.3%. This trend is echoed by data compiled by private sector companies that track auto sales. Slap another testicle into the bag there. Bag's getting pretty full. Yeah. Getting warm in here. And I'm like just about halfway through. The Second Amendment, from the day it was passed, limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. Alright, let me see. You guys elected this fucking twit, so when I call you numbnuts or, blithering idiots, this is why. President Joe Biden plans to curb rising violence relies on several steps. More aid to local police departments. Weren't these the freaking idiots who were screaming defund the police? Expanding job programs for young adults. More violence intervention programs. Yeah, that's called the police. And tougher measures to shut down gun sellers who break federal laws. Most gun sellers don't break federal laws. They're called straw purchasers who can pass a background check and then they don't get caught, so they go buy another gun and still pass the background check. Matter of fact, in Pennsylvania, you have to pass 2 background checks. Rogue gun dealers feel like they can get away with selling guns to people who aren't legally allowed to own them. No, they don't. Biden said June 23rd, there has always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it. Never. That's why it says, shall not be infringed. And Biden said the power was rooted in history. Your brain is rooted in history. The Second Amendment, from the day it was passed, limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. Biden said you couldn't buy a cannon. Yes, you could. We reached out to the White House and received no comment, but Biden's statement is not accurate history. During the campaign, Biden made a similar claim about cannons in the Revolutionary War and who could own them. We rated that false. It is false. There was no ATF, folks. You could own whatever the hell you could afford. This time, on top of that, Biden misrepresents what the Second Amendment says. Second Amendment places no limits, experts say. No shit. That's why it says shall not be infringed. The Supreme Court and ATF place limits. They're not laws, by the way. ATF does not pass laws. ATF passes regulations. The text of the Second Amendment is short. Well-regulated militia. That would include the unorganized militia. Being necessary to the security of a free state. The state is everybody. It's not a place. It's the people. Shall not be infringed. There's that not be infringed part. I'm whispering like Sniffy Joe just to see if I sound as fucking stupid as he does. University of Tennessee law professor Glenn Harlan Reynolds said the amendment's few words speak for themselves. The Second Amendment places no limits on individual ownership of cannon or any other arms, Reynolds said. There have been many court cases to resolve whether the amendment confers on individual right to bear arms. In 2008, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it does. Setting aside ongoing disagreements over the ruling, Fordham University law professor Nicholas Johnson said the amendment limited government action, not people. That's what the first 10 amendments were there for, to limit the government, what they could do. The first federal gun law does not appear until the 20th century, Johnson said. That law, the National Firearms Act, came in 1934 when machine guns were the weapon of choice of Prohibition-era gangsters. The law was drafted before Prohibition ended in 1933. When U.S. Attorney General Homer Cummings made the case for the law before the House Ways and Means Committee, he based it on the government's power to tax and regulate interstate commerce, not the Second Amendment. You elected this guy, okay, so now you got to live with this shit. He's an idiot, which would make you like an idiot because you wanted an idiot to represent you. So I assume, like birds of a feather, you wanted an idiot to represent you. You must be an idiot. For vaccine rates among for hokey pokey rates among Americans 65 and older, there's virtually no difference between white, black, Hispanic, Asian, American. During May 3rd remarks on the American Families Plan, President Joe Biden boasted that there was not much disparity in the COVID-19 vaccination rates for white Americans and Americans of color who are at least 65. And what's happening now is all the talk about how people were not going to get shots. They were not going to be involved. Look at what that was. We were told that was most likely to be among people over 65 years of age, said Biden. But now people over 65 years of age, over 80%, have now been vaccinated and 66% fully vaccinated, and there's virtually no difference between white, black, Hispanic, Asian American. This isn't the only time that Biden has made the claim. He went even further on April 27th during remarks on the COVID-19 response. And by the way, based on reported data, the proportion of seniors who have been vaccinated is essentially equal between white and seniors of color. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, there are more Latinos and African American seniors that have been vaccinated as a percentage than white seniors. However, the national data that Sniffy Joe keeps touting, vaccination statistics regarding both race and age, is not public. We asked the White House for information underlying this claim, but officials did not provide specifics. So we moved on to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Spokesperson Chandra Zekel told KHN PolitiFact on May 6th that unfortunately we don't have available a data breakdown of both racial demographics and age together. Zekel didn't respond to follow-up questions asking when or if the CDC would be publishing this data, but current CDC vaccination data is broken down only by race, ethnicity, and shows significant differences, with white Americans far outpacing the percentage of other groups getting a shot. It also shows that the rate of vaccinations among some groups, including black and Latino Americans, does not match their share of the population, though new CDC data shows there has been some progress on this front in the last 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the CDC published a report May 11th based on the first 3.5 months of the U.S. COVID-19 vaccination program that described limited race, ethnicity data for those older than 65 who have received at least one vaccine dose. Although the data reflects some gains in vaccination equity, those rates do not hold across different ethnic and racial categories. In addition, about 40% of the vaccines recorded were missing race and ethnicity data. That made us wonder about the premise of Biden's statement. We turned to experts for their take. As far as I know, there is no comprehensive publicly available data on vaccination rates by race, ethnicity, and age. Samantha Archiga, Vice President and Director of the Racial Equity and Health Policy Program at KFF, wrote in an email, "As such, we are not able to assess whether there are racial disparities in vaccinations among people over 65 years of age." What about other state-level data or anecdotes that might support Biden's claim? Let's dive in and see. A small number of states report both age and race together. At least 7 states track vaccination based on combination of age and race, according to Archiga: Michigan, South Carolina, West Virginia, Kansas, Minnesota, Washington, and Vermont. Vermont tracks only 2 racial categories: non-Hispanic white and a combination of black, indigenous, and people of color. The result for some of these states show that racial disparities do exist in the older age groups. In Michigan, for instance, over 50% of non-Hispanic white people ages 65 to 74 have completed their vaccinations as of May 11th. Other racial groups, non-Hispanic black people, Asian people, and Pacific Islanders and Hispanics, all trailed by about 10 percentage points. The exception was the Native American and Alaska Natives category, which was within 4 percentage points of white people. And as of May 11th in Kansas, the rate at which white people in the same age group were vaccinated was higher than the rates of black people and the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. In Vermont, for those 65 and up, about 79% of people of color had received at least 1 dose of the vaccine, compared with 85% of white people as of that date. With the exception of Vermont, which has the distinction of being the only state to target BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color populations by race explicitly. These are examples of states in which numbers are not doing well in their equity efforts. Dwayne Bowen Matthew, Dean of George Washington University Law School and an expert in racial disparities by healthcare, wrote in an email. The fucking vaccine is free. If they wanted to go get it, they would go get it, okay? Has nothing to do with racism. Sniffy Joe lied, yes, but still, it has nothing to do with racism. Is fucking free. The government was actually giving out free shit so you would go get one. McDonald's and beer. Holy shit, people. What do we got next? Again, another testicle for the bag. Another monkey testicle. They're coming. Yeah, that's pants on fire. Come on, people. Why isn't this pants on fire? We're sending back the vast majority of families that are coming. Oh my God, pants on fire. And I feel, because I'm an immigrant, I live in Brazil, but Sniffy Joe on his first press conference as president sought to relieve concerns about the numbers of people arriving at the southern border, claiming that the vast majority are being sent back, including families. Thousands, tens of thousands of people who are over 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back, sent home, Sniffy Joe said, March 25th. We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We are trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. Data reported by Customs and Border Protection shows that he's right about adults coming alone. Most encountered by Border Patrol agents are being expelled under a public health law invoked by the Trump administration and still in effect under Biden. But Biden's claim about families facing the same outcome is wrong. According to the latest monthly data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, February's numbers are all we have so far on enforcement actions during Biden's tenure. Most of January's data came during the Trump administration. The numbers cover how many people were apprehended and placed into deportation proceedings, as well as the number of people who were turned away under a public health law invoked last year. Border Patrol in February encountered close to 19,000 family unit aliens. This can include a child and at least one parent. And around 7,900 were expelled, so more than 11,000, the majority, were let in and placed in immigration proceedings. The White House did not provide data that supports his claim. March data is expected in early April. Given that migration flows and Mexican capacity fluctuates, 1 month of statistics does not reflect the full picture, said Vedant Patel, a White House spokesperson. Yeah, it's actually worse than that. Like 1 month does not show you what a blithering idiot this guy is. Let's see. If we kept the minimum wage index to inflation, people would be making $20 an hour right now. Oh, I forgot the last one. Yeah, it goes in the bag. Another monkey testicle for the bag. All right. During a CNN town hall in Wisconsin, Joe Biden misstated an argument in favor of raising the minimum wage. Biden and many other Democrats support a phased-in minimum wage hike to $15 an hour. That would be a significant increase from the current $7.25, a level that has been steady since 2009. Biden's American Rescue Plan included the wage hike to $15 an hour, though it's unclear whether that provision will be included in the relief legislation now working its way through Congress. During the town hall, a member of the audience asked Biden about the wage hike proposal. Given the lower cost of living specifically in the Midwest, many business owners are concerned that this will put them out of business, forcing them to downsize or cut benefits, the audience member said. How can you instill confidence in small businesses that this will benefit the Midwest business growth? Biden said it was reasonable for small business owners to worry about the impact, but he sought to reassure the questioner that the positive impacts would outweigh the negative ones if the change was more gradually. Here's the deal, Biden said. It's about doing it gradually, where it's currently $7.25 an hour. No one should work 40 hours a week and live in poverty, but it's totally legitimate for small business owners to be concerned about how that changes. If we kept the minimum wage indexed to inflation, people would be making $20 an hour right now, Biden said. That's what it would be. But Biden muffed his talking point. Using the inflation calculator operated by the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, 725 in 2009 would be worth about $8.98 in 2021, which is well short of $20. Another one for the bag. Wow. Just over halfway through here. And I wish I should have actually got a bag and put something in it so I could lift it up every time. I just, throw something in it like a rock. I call it my my bag of monkey nuts. The Boilermakers Union has endorsed me because I sat down with them and went into great detail with leadership about exactly what I would do. What the fuck does this guy know about leadership? This guy has to be led around the White House lawn. He's been there before. When asked to prove his support for fracking is genuine, Joe Biden said last week that he'd won the backing of the Boilermakers, a union whose members depend on natural gas industry and passionately support the controversial drilling technique. The Boilermakers Union has endorsed me because I sat down with them and went into great detail with leadership, there's that word again, about exactly what I would do. Biden said Thursday in Philadelphia during a nationally televised ABC News town hall. That's not true. Biden hasn't been endorsed by the National Brotherhood of Boilermakers, which represents 50,000 people across the country who work in heavy industry, manufacturing, and related sectors, or Local 154, the Pittsburgh area chapter mentioned at the event. The International Union states clearly on its website that it hasn't endorsed a candidate for president this cycle. The International Brotherhood of Boilermakers has not endorsed any U.S. presidential candidate for the 2020 election, and the information contained on this webpage is in no way serves as an endorsement by the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers for any U.S. presidential candidate. A note on the website continues, as a union Boilermaker, your vote is personal decision. You have the right to vote for candidates and issues you so choose. Your vote can make a difference in electing the representatives and policymakers who support labor issues and advocate for the work Boilermakers do. Local union lodges aren't bound by what the larger umbrella group does, and in September, Local 154 endorsed President Donald Trump. Woo! The other day I'm watching the debate and I see Joe Biden tell everybody that the Boilermakers endorsed him, and that is not true, said John Hughes, Local 154's business manager. He said he talked to somebody. I'd like to know who he talked to in the Boilermakers because anybody I talked to did not endorse him. Asked for evidence that Biden spoke with members of the Boilermakers Union, Andrew Bates, the Biden's campaign director of Rapid Response, provided none. Instead, he listed several other Pennsylvania unions Biden met with and won endorsements from while campaigning, such as Teamsters Local 249, United Association of Plumbers, Local 27, and Pennsylvania AFL-CIO. Another one for the sack full of monkey nuts. Actually, we should call it the Sniffy Joe sack of monkey nuts. Because is Sniffy Joe a lying sack of monkey nuts? They eliminated the funding for community policing. Okay. And I'm going to guess I haven't read this article. I haven't read any of these articles. Are talking about Republicans. I'm going to guess. Because they have this thing about fucking lying about Republicans. Like, I'm a racist. But if you see my wife, you'd be going, racist? Oh, fuck. Shit. During a town hall hosted by ABC News, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden touted the Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, program, which was enacted as part of the 1994 crime bill. You remember the crime bill Sniffy Joe got passed that actually incarcerated more black Americans than... And then Donald Trump passed prison reform, giving them second chances. Yeah, that 1994 crime bill. It also gave us gun-free zones. So thank you, Sniffy Joe, for killing all those people, with your stupid sign. The 1994 bill, which Biden spearheaded, included some provisions on prosecution and sentencing that have recently been criticized for exacerbating criminal justice disparities for minority groups. But at the town hall, Biden highlighted other parts of the law that have been more popular. The idea behind community policing was to develop new policing strategies focused on engaging officers, members of the community, on their beat rather than seeming like an occupying force. That's worked out well. Aren't you the fucking idiots who keep screaming defund the police? That's not Republicans. That's you people. And normally, like in Chicago, when a police officer is like community policing, there's usually a firefight. In an exchange with host George Stephanopoulos on October 15th Town Hall, Biden lamented that they eliminated the funding for community policing. I'm going to guess they is Republicans. Biden was vague about who eliminated the funding and when. Either way, he's wrong about the elimination of funding. Biden's campaign told PolitiFact that he was referring to Trump's fiscal 2019 budget proposal, which would have halved funding for the community policing program. But this proposal wasn't enacted, and it did not amount to an elimination. So, another testicle for the bag. I need to get a bag. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing this again because this guy cannot tell the truth. Ever. Like, ever. Okay. Next. Senate Republicans move to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court in an election year is not constitutional. No, student loan forgiveness isn't constitutional. That's exactly their fucking job, you dumbass. Let's see. Asked whether he would consider adding justices to the Supreme Court if elected, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden claims Senate Republicans moved to install Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the vacant seat less than a month after Election Day was not constitutional. Look, the only court packing is going on right now, Biden told reporters October 10th. It's going on with the Republicans packing the court now. It's not constitutional what they're doing. The rush to replace the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died in September, is a departure from the GOP's position in 2016 when the Republican-led Senate blocked President Barack Obama's nomination of Judge Merrick Garland months before that year's election. Biden, the former vice president who served 2 terms with Obama, has argued that the winner of the November 3rd presidential election should pick the next nominee. The term court packing, a phrase that invokes President Franklin D. Roosevelt's 1937 proposal to expand the size of the Supreme Court, means increasing the number of justices on the court. Doing that would require legislation, and Biden has not said whether he would consider it as president. But Republicans are not currently pursuing that. As for the move to seat Barrett before the election, 2 constitutional scholars said that in general sense, the Senate Republicans' actions seem at odds with some of the democratic principles underlying the Constitution. But the Republicans' move to add Barrett to the bench was a fast-paced confirmation process, is not a violation of any specific clause in the Constitution, legal experts agree. There is nothing unconstitutional about nominating a judge in an election year, said Saikishna Prakash, a professor of law at the University of Virginia, in an email to PolitiFact. And there is nothing unconstitutional about giving consent to a president to appoint a judge or justice. In the modern era, whether to proceed on a nomination during or after an election year is wholly a matter of politics, Prakash said. No specific clause in the Constitution outlines this moment. Article 2 of the Constitution says the president shall nominate and with advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint judges of the Supreme Court. The Constitution doesn't spell out procedures for nominating justices, nor does it require the High Court stay at a certain size. The number of seats of the Supreme Court is determined by legislation and has changed over the years. It has been set at 9 justices since 1869. A handful of historical precedents and informal rules have been cited for the handling of election year Supreme Court nominations, but they carry no official force. Another one for the bag. Like, wasn't he a fucking lawyer? I'm pretty sure, like in law school, you actually have to read the Constitution, right? I'm pretty sure. During the Obama-Biden administration, 18,000 people got clemency. Huh. Clemency, pardons, clemency. During the town hall in Miami, NBC's Lester Holt asked former President Joe Biden about the Obama administration's record on criminal justice reform. Holt said that President Donald Trump and Biden's critics will say that Biden had almost 50 years in government and wasn't able to accomplish criminal justice reform, including when the Obama-Biden administration had a Democratic majority in both houses of Congress. Sniffy Joe hasn't accomplished anything in 50 fucking years in politics. Biden pushed back with a defense of the Obama-Biden administration's efforts related to criminal justice. Yeah, we did. 18,000 people got clemency, Biden said. He got 2 or 3. What's he talking about? We thought about the 18,000 clemency figure for Obama sounded high based on our fact check of a Facebook post comparing the pardon records of Obama and Trump. It was, as we asked the Biden campaign about what he was referring to when he said he got 2 or 3, the Biden campaign didn't reply to our questions seeking clarification. Because they can't. I have a whole, never mind. Obama's clemency actions were a fraction of what Biden said. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution says the President shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. The general term for these presidential actions is clemency. But there are 2 types. A pardon describes an expression of the President's forgiveness, is issued after a person's conviction or after a person's sentence has been completed. It restores rights, such as the right to vote or run for office. A commutation reduces a sentence, either totally or partially, but it does not remove the conviction. Over his 2 terms, Obama issued 212 pardons and 1,715 computations for a total of 1,927 acts of clemency, according to the Federal Department of Justice data. The Biden campaign said he didn't misspoke and meant to say about 1,800, but instead said 18,000. He seems to misspeak a lot, especially about girls with barrettes. Oh, here we go. The Trump campaign asked that I release the list of potential Supreme Court nominees only after Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. Oh, we're getting there, folks. Trust me. He's one lying sack of shit. Sack of monkey nuts. All right. And I'm reading this with you guys. I have not reread these. I have no idea what they say. As Republicans look to fill the Supreme Court vacancy left by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, President Donald Trump's campaign has elevated its call for Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden to release a list of candidates he would consider for the bench. He has put judges on the bench. They don't know what's in the Constitution, and they can't frickin' define a woman. So there's your answer. Trump and his campaign have challenged Biden to match the list of 20 potential nominees Trump rolled out September 9th, which included several federal appeals court judges and Republican senators such as Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Biden has dismissed those requests. Speaking in Philadelphia 2 days after Ginsburg's death, the former vice president rejected the call again while urging the Republican-led Senate to let the winner of the presidential election pick Ginsburg's replacement. In doing so, Biden wrongly claimed the Trump campaign asked for his list only after Ginsburg died. He also claimed falsely that there's no court session between now and the end of this election. After Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, they said Biden should release his list. Biden said in the September 20th address, "It's no wonder the Trump campaign asked that I release the list only after she passed away. It's a game for them. It's a play to gin up emotions and anger." The Biden campaign noted that the claim came as Biden diverged slightly from his prepared remarks, which the campaign provided to PolitiFact. His prepared line was, "It's no wonder the Trump campaign asked that I release a list only hours after Justice Ginsburg passed away. Both Trump and his campaign called several times for Biden to put out a list of prospective nominees before Ginsburg's death on September 18th, when the campaign unveiled the 20 additions to Trump's list. In September 9th press release, it wrote, "Biden must do the same." Trump's campaign staff cited that announcement and other examples, disproving Biden's claim on Twitter and on its website, and the campaign flagged a few more in response to an inquiry. Okay, another one for the old, monkey sack there, remember, this is a left-leaning site. Okay, I think I just mentioned this. There is no court session between now and the end of the election. Now, I'm trying to figure, who's writing his lies for him, because he's obviously not competent enough. Did you know that the University of Pennsylvania pays this guy for speaking fees? Pays him. That's where they found some of those classified documents. Of course, it probably helps that the Chinese government has paid UPenn $58 million. For what? 2 days after the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden gave a speech at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. In it, he argued that Ginsburg's seat should not be filled in a rush, just weeks before a presidential election. In the speech, Biden said the Constitution was designed to give voters one chance to have their voice heard in who serves on the court. And by the way, there's no court session between now and the end of this election. The second sentence was seemingly an additional argument for slowing down the process. It seemed to be an ad lib, since it didn't appear in the prepared remarks sent out by his campaign, but it was incorrect. On its website, the Supreme Court lists 5 days of oral arguments scheduled for October the 5th, 6th, 7th, 13th, and 14th. It also lists oral arguments for November 2nd and November 3rd. November 3rd is Election Day. Among the scheduled oral arguments, Tanzine versus Tanvir, a religious freedom case. So, yeah, another one for the bag, right? And this is before the election. Believe it or not, I believe people actually knew he was fucking lying. They just didn't care. Holy shit. Now, if the president had done his job from the beginning, all the people would still be alive. All the people, I'm not making this up, just look at the data. Yes, if you had done your job, depends on who he's done, because more people died of Beer 19 under his watch than the previous administration. So he might want to not mention Beer 19. Just shh, 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 shh. If you don't mention it. Speaking about the Corona Beer 19 during a CNN town hall, less than 2 months away from the election day, former Vice President Sniffy Joe said every one of the nearly 200,000 COVID recorded in the U.S. can be laid at President Donald Trump's feet. And yet you had more Beer 19 deaths after you were elected. Got it. If the president had done his job from the beginning, all the people would still be alive, Biden said at the CNN town hall in Moosic, Pennsylvania. All the people. I'm not making this up. Just look at the data. I've looked at the data. More people died under your watch, you senile fool, than under his. The Democratic presidential nominee remarks came as Trump faces criticism for downplaying the threat of the coronavirus early on and admitting on tape that he did so. The U.S. leads the world in confirmed Beer 19 cases and deaths, and experts say a fall surge in cases could put fatalities at more than double their current number by the year's end. A more robust handling of the pandemic would likely have been the country's death count significantly reduced, experts say. But Sniffy Joe's claim that a different response from Trump would have prevented every Beer 19 death goes too far. I think it's impossible to say every life could have been saved, said Amish Adalja, a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins University Center for Health Security. Keeping beer 19 at 0 deaths would have been a difficult achievement, regardless of who was in charge, said Brooke Nichols, an assistant professor of global health in Boston University. However, how do you make beer 19 deaths go up? Because that's exactly what Sniffy Joe did. If we had developed testing capacity as soon as we knew of the pathogen and could have rapidly test everyone arriving from abroad, then I suppose it's theoretically possible, but unlikely, Nichols said. Even countries that have found relative success managing the beer 19, such as South Korea and New Zealand, have seen some deaths. Experts said that faster, more robust measures taken by the federal government could have put the U.S. on par with those countries and others that responded similarly. The right actions in January, February, and March would likely have prevented a substantial number of deaths, Adalja said, and would have put the U.S. on a trajectory more like Taiwan, which has recorded just 503 confirmed cases and 7 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University. What is the population of Taiwan? By the way, Taiwan was using Uncle Ivan and a certain vitamin for treatment as well. So there's something to think about. Those actions might have included a national coordinated strategy across state lines, rapidly scaled up testing, and ramped up production and mobilization of resources, and more clear communications of what was known about the virus and how to prevent it, experts say. Obviously, you could logically say that if you had a process that was ongoing and you started mitigation earlier, you could have saved lives, Dr. Anthony Fauci. If you're quoting him, the man should be in jail. The nation's top infectious disease expert told CNN in April. Obviously, no one is going to deny that. So, yeah, another one for the monkey nuts. Actually, I'm almost tempted to put 2 in there because they also mentioned Fauci. Fuck Fauci. Fauci should be in jail. And that's as far as I'm going today. I'm going to bookmark this because there's another page. There's actually another page on Sniffy Joe's Lies.